Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another legal breaking reporting and video analysis update. Judge Immergut, who Donald Trump himself appointed to the bench in his first term, has rightfully blocked him from sending any other National Guard members or troops to the the state of Portland and to the city of Oregon, Portland. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into that reporting. The article, ladies and gentlemen, by Reuters is titled, U.S. District Judge blocks Trump from sending any National Guard troops to Portland for now. And ladies and gentlemen, the article reads, a federal judge in Oregon on Sunday temporarily blocked Donald Trump and his administration. Ladies and gentlemen, my editorial edition, from sending any National Guard troops to police Portland, Oregon, a setback for the president as he seeks to dispatch the military to cities over the objections of their Democratic leaders. The ruling by U.S. District Judge Karen Immergut followed the Trump administration's decision to call in troops from California and Texas just one day after she temporarily blocked Trump from deploying 200 Oregon National Guard troops to Portland. Immergut said there was no evidence that recent protests necessitated the presence of National Guard troops, no matter where they came from. Quote, how could bringing in federal National Guard troops, ladies and gentlemen, federalized National Guard troops from California not be in direct contravention to the decision I issued yesterday? Immergut asked a Trump administration lawyer during a hearing on Sunday night. Immergut's ruling on Sunday, which will remain in effect until at least October 19, means the administration of Donald Trump would be blocked from sending any National Guard troops to Portland, while Oregon and California seek a longer-term ruling in court. There was no immediate comment from the White House or from the Pentagon on the judge's order. The Pentagon said earlier on Sunday that it was sending 200 California National Guard troops to Oregon to support U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and other personnel from the federal government. Ladies and gentlemen, my editorial edition. Performing official duties, including the enforcement of federal law and to protect federal property, unquote. National Guard troops are state-based militia forces that answer to their governors when called into federal service. ladies and gentlemen, except when called into federal service. Trump has said their deployment in Portland is necessary to respond to protests at an immigration facility in the city. California Governor Gavin Newsom said before the judge's order that the troops were already on their way to Portland. Quote, "This is a breathtaking abuse of the law and power. The Trump administration is unapologetically attacking the rule of law itself," unquote, Newsom said in a post on X. A federal judge blocked the Trump administration from using troops in California to fight crime on September 2nd, but that ruling is on hold while the administration appeals. The Guard troops, as a result, headed to Oregon remain federalized, and under Trump's command. The attempted Oregon deployment is the latest example of Trump's expanding use of the U.S. military in his second term, which has included deploying troops along the U.S. border and ordering them to kill suspected drug traffickers on boats off Venezuela. National Guard troops have been deployed to police Los Angeles and Washington, D.C., and Trump has said he would send troops to several other cities regardless of objections from local government officials. Sunday, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, a Democrat, said Trump was ordering 400 members of the Texas National Guard to cities in Illinois, Oregon, and other cities. Pritzker called on the Texas governor to refuse to coordinate with the order. Oregon and Portland, ladies and gentlemen, challenged Trump's efforts to federalize its National Guard, saying Trump was exaggerating the threat of protests against the immigration policies to justify illegally seizing control of state units. They argued that Trump's deployment violates several federal laws and the state's sovereign rights to police its own citizens. Speaking to reporters at the White House earlier Sunday, Trump repeated his characterization of Portland as a city overrun by lawlessness. "You have agitators, insurrectionists," he said. Immergut, who was appointed by Trump during his first term, said in her ruling on Saturday that although the president must be given a great level of deference, unquote, in military decisions, he cannot ignore the facts on the ground. Accepting Trump's legal arguments, would mean that he could send military troops virtually anywhere at any time and risk blurring the line between civilian and military federal power to the detriment of this nation, she added. Trump said on Sunday he did not know which judge issued Saturday's ruling, but that he was not served well by those who advised him to make the appointment in his first term. That judge ought to be ashamed of himself. Trump said of Immergut mistaking her gender. Okay, seriously? Seriously. Trump he'd be done for if he mistook my gender and I was in it and I was her. Like, you're a screwed up man. The Trump administration on Sunday appealed Immergut's decision on the Oregon troops, arguing that the Supreme Court decided 200 years ago that ladies and gentlemen, that Congress gave the decision on whether to call up National Guard troops to the president. Ladies and gentlemen, I will have clarification to the last paragraph down in the comments below.